He approached the counter. Clint Eastwood walked into the store with heavy steps, feeling a slight fatigue after his walk. He approached the counter, holding a bottle of water in his hand. Behind the counter stood a young woman with a phone in her hand, not even looking up. "Is that all?" she mumbled, glancing at the screen for a moment before staring at it again. "Yes," Clint replied calmly. The girl scanned the item and nervously glanced at the monitor. Your card is blocked." Clint furrowed his brows. "What do you mean, blocked?" "Well, the transaction was declined. It says there's no permission to make the payment." She rolled her eyes, as if explaining something obvious. "This is some mistake. My card works." "I told you, it's blocked," the girl shrugged. "If the system doesn't accept it, then it doesn't." Clint gritted his teeth. "I can pay with cash." The girl scoffed. "We don't accept cash. It's 2025, sir." "Since when do stores not accept cash?" "Company policy," she said indifferently and started typing something on her phone. A young employee in a uniform approached the counter. "What's going on here?" "This man's card is blocked." The girl gave a meaningful look to her colleague. "Oh," the guy smirked. "He probably has issues with his account." "I have no issues with my account." Clint's voice became more firm. "Well, if you can't pay, that's not our problem," the guy shrugged. Clint felt irritation starting to boil in his chest. His hands clenched into fists. "I just want to pay for the water." "Then sort out the issues with the bank," the guy laughed and walked away. Clint slightly squinted, feeling the anger building inside him. Clint stood still, feeling his heart beat faster. He squeezed his fingers around the bottle, almost breaking it. He didn't like being treated this way, and his patience was running thin. His gaze stopped on the cashier, who had already returned to her phone, as if he weren't even there. He stepped toward her, snapping his fingers loudly, forcing her to look up. "Are you even listening? I told you the card works." The girl glanced at the monitor again, not even trying to understand the situation. "Don't yell, it's not my fault," she coldly replied, not looking up. "Your card is declined. It's not my problem." Clint sighed, trying to calm down. He was twice her age, but he felt insignificant, as if he no longer commanded any respect. "Do you even understand what you're doing? You're telling me I can't pay for a bottle of water." His voice was losing control. The cashier simply waved her hand. "If you have a problem with a card, solve it where it can be done." Clint quickly turned around, stepping out from behind the counter, and walked over to the security guard by the door. He looked at him and calmly asked, "Can I not get the water?" "Because your cashier says my card isn't working." Clint spoke with cold anger, barely holding back his rage. The guard looked him over carefully, as if considering the situation. "Are you serious? You tried to pay with a card." The guard began laughing, not hiding his irony. "Sorry, but this is getting ridiculous. Want the water? Go to the ATM." Clint felt the tension in his chest again. He didn't like becoming the object of mockery. Why were they treating him this way? He took a deep breath and turned back to the counter. The cashier didn't even look up, absorbed in her phone screen. "Can I find out what's wrong with my card?" His voice was calm, but every word was heavy. "Sorry, but the system isn't providing any more information." "It's your problem," she said, not even trying to help him figure out more. Clint clenched his fists. Something inside him was exploding, and it was starting to feel like an injustice he couldn't ignore. "I'm coming back here if you don't let me take my purchase. Your policy is not my problem." The cashier waved him off, as if telling him to go. The guard seemed to notice the growing conflict. He stepped toward the counter, pretending to want to defuse the situation. "Let's try to settle this without any more stress. so why not step outside and try paying with your card somewhere else? Clint looked at both of them, two young people who seemed to have no idea what respect was. His patience was nearly exhausted. "This is the last straw," he said, shaking his head. "This isn't your store, these aren't your rules, it's my time, and I'm not going to stand here and take it." He left the store, feeling his heart break with the injustice. The street was empty, but his irritation stayed with him, like a heavy stone in his chest. Clint took a few steps down the sidewalk, but the internal tension didn't fade. He could feel his emotions overwhelming his mind, and he couldn't just walk away. He needed to do something, to prove that he wouldn't let people treat him like this, as if he were anyone else. He turned back toward the store, deeply offended. His heart was pounding in his chest like a drum. He didn't want to become aggressive, but at that moment, he couldn't hold back. Clint returned to the entrance and saw the security guard standing by the door, as if waiting for his return. "Back again." The guard raised an eyebrow, not hiding his sarcasm. "You have no idea what just happened." Clint spoke tensely, almost shouting. "I'm not going to stand for this treatment." The guard shrugged. "Sorry, but you have no say in how we operate. Want to solve the problem? Go to customer support or just take your card and leave." Clint could feel his blood boiling. He had lost all control over his emotions. He took a step forward. "This isn't just about the card. It's about your attitude. You're not even trying to help, not trying to solve the problem. Only disrespect and indifference." Clint started speaking louder, drawing the attention of passers-by who were getting closer. The guard frowned, sensing the tension. "Enough," he said, gritting his teeth. "You don't seem worth the time. Go home, or we'll call the police." "Police? That's your answer? You want to call the police because I don't want to be ignored? I won't stop until I get justice." Clint was on the edge. He no longer cared what people thought of him. At that moment, the cashier came out of the store and saw what was happening. She raised her hand dismissively. "What, you're back again? I told you, your problems are not mine. And besides, your cards don't work, and it's all your fault." Her words were the last straw. Clint looked at her, at the guard, and at the growing crowd of passers-by. He felt like screaming, but instead, he took a deep breath to keep control. "Listen," he said with tense calm, "you probably don't understand, but I'm not going to stand here and take this. This isn't just about the card. It's about how you treat people. And I will act." Clint took a step back and pulled out his phone, pressing the emergency call button. All eyes were on him. The guard, noticing the situation could spiral out of control, stepped forward, trying to stop him. "I'm calling the police now," he said, trying to sound confident. But Clint didn't listen. He stood there with the phone in his hands, preparing to take control of the situation. His actions had become even more decisive than before. It seemed like the thought had solidified in his mind. This was his moment to make it right. "I demand an apology, and if I don't get it, I won't let this go," Clint said loudly, looking directly into the eyes of the guard and cashier. Everyone around started whispering. Clint couldn't help but feel the rising tension. Would he do what the situation demanded, or would he stay true to his own principles? Clint stood, holding his phone in his hands, his heart racing wildly. Every muscle in his body was tense to the limit, and he could feel the situation slipping out of control in an instant. The security guard, seeing Clint pressing a button on his phone, stepped forward. "If you call the police now," the guard said, his voice filled with threat, "I won't let you off easily." Clint didn't respond. He couldn't afford to panic, even though he was being pressured from all sides. He knew that the real goal here was to intimidate him. But this wasn't the moment to back down. The cashier, standing by the store door, watched him with a mocking look, tugging at her apron. Her contemptuous gaze only made him more frustrated. "Just leave this idiot alone. He'll start getting nervous again, and then what? she yelled at the guard. He's nervous because he can't accept the truth, the guard added with a malicious smile. If you want everything to calm down, just leave. We don't want any trouble. Clint looked at both of them, his irritation growing with every word, but he didn't give in. He felt that this time, he had to see it through to the end. No, he said loudly, catching his breath in anger. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going until I get answers. If you want to call the police, then go ahead. But know that I'm doing this now. His words rang out like a challenge. The guard, realizing the situation was escalating, started to get nervous. He stepped closer to Clint, but Clint could feel everything starting to revolve around his will. You don't get it, you're just one of those people who shifts the blame onto others, Clint said, standing right in front of him. I'm not here to hurt you, but to make you understand that this isn't how it should be. There are plenty of people in this city who deserve better service, and I'm not going to stay quiet while you treat us like trash. The guard grabbed Clint's arm, trying to stop him. But Clint was already ready for something more. I'm not letting this go. Apologies won't help, Clint said, his voice now firmer, almost aggressive. I want you all to understand, if I don't get help, I'll make everyone around me see how unjust this is. The saleswoman stepped out of the store and approached Clint, continuing to complain. Oh, look, now he's starting to get offensive. You made your own problems. And now you want us to apologize? That doesn't work, buddy. Clint took a deep breath and, without breaking eye contact, took another step toward the saleswoman. I didn't make my own problems, he replied coldly. I just want you to understand that you can't treat people like this. Do you think you can abuse me because I won't say anything? I'll show you how your games might end. Clint couldn't stop. He felt everything inside him boiling. He was ready to go all the way, even if it meant more conflict. But he also knew that his fight wouldn't stop until people around him realized, you can't ignore other lives, you can't be indifferent. The guard stepped back, trying to regain control of the situation. But Clint remained steadfast. Apology, or I'll take it one step further. Police, if necessary. But I'll make you understand that people deserve more. The silence that settled in the store was as tense as a thread about to snap. The security guard, seeing how determined Clint was, sighed and took a step back. I don't want this to escalate to the police, the security guard said, lowering his voice. Just go. Forget all this, and don't come back here. Clint stood silently, never taking his eyes off the guard. His heart no longer pounded as it had earlier, but the adrenaline still surged through his body. He knew he had won, even if it was a small battle, he hadn't given up. You'll be surprised when I tell everyone, Clint said, turning toward the door. But I didn't come here to hurt you. I came to make you understand, we, people, deserve respect. As he stepped out of the store, Clint took another deep breath. Everything around him seemed a bit calmer. He knew that this situation wouldn't go without consequences. People need to start fighting for their rights, for their dignity, even in the most mundane moments. His heart still raced, but he felt that his action was a step toward something bigger. His words and actions would not only change his life but also the lives of others. And even though today had been just one small battle, he already felt that he wouldn't leave this world without making a difference. The tense silence in the store stretched on, filling the air with an almost unbearable weight. Clint's heart, still pounding from the confrontation, seemed to echo in his chest. Every muscle in his body was coiled, ready to spring at any moment, but he remained still, his eyes locked with the security guard. The guard, sensing the simmering rage in Clint's eyes, shifted uncomfortably. He wasn't used to dealing with someone like this. His calm exterior was cracking, his voice barely a whisper now. I don't want this to go any further, he said, his words heavy with reluctance. Just leave. Forget this happened. Don't come back here. Clint remained silent for a long moment, his gaze unwavering. His mind raced, but his face remained unreadable. He could feel the tension in the air, could hear the faint murmurs of the other employees and customers who had stopped in their tracks to witness the scene. The entire store had fallen into an uncomfortable stillness, the weight of the moment thick and suffocating. Finally, Clint took a step back, his voice low but steady as he spoke, each word cutting through the silence like a sharp blade. "You'll be surprised when I share this with others," he said, turning slowly toward the door. His eyes never wavered from the guard, a subtle challenge in his gaze. "But I didn't come here to hurt anyone. I came here to make you understand, we, as people, deserve respect." The guard said nothing. His expression softened, but he made no move to stop Clint. The words had landed, and even he knew they would resonate long after Clint left. The store, once filled with the hum of daily transactions, now stood frozen in time, the energy of the confrontation lingering in the air like a storm waiting to break. Clint's hand rested briefly on the door as he stepped outside. The cool breeze hit his face, and he inhaled deeply, trying to steady himself. The adrenaline was still coursing through him, but there was something else now, something quieter, more powerful. A sense of accomplishment, of having stood his ground when others would have faltered. He took a few more steps down the sidewalk, feeling the weight of his actions settle into his bones. His thoughts swirled, but there was one thing that stood clear in his mind: this wasn't just about the store, or the guard, or the disrespect he'd faced. It was about something bigger. It was about the realization that sometimes, all it takes is one person, one voice, to shake things up. To show others that they don't have to accept being treated unfairly. That dignity isn't a privilege, it's a right. And even though today was just one small battle, Clint knew this was only the beginning. His words and actions might not change the world overnight, but they would matter. They would ripple out, like a stone thrown into a still pond, touching others in ways he couldn't yet predict. As he walked away, he knew one thing for certain: he had made a difference today. Maybe not in the grand, sweeping way he imagined. But in a way that mattered. He had fought not with fists or anger, but with quiet defiance and dignity. He had stood up, not for himself, but for everyone who ever felt less than. For those who believed they had no voice. The door behind him swung shut, but Clint didn't need to look back. He knew the store would never be the same. And neither would he. As he disappeared into the street, a small smile tugged at the corner of his lips.